the story came because about 10 years ago, I got laryngitis twice in 6 weeks and I couldn't find chicken soup, right? I had lived in New York for a long time, and in New York, you can get anything delivered. And I got everything delivered. And then I moved to Washington, and like the only things that you could get delivered were like pizza or Chinese food. And so, I'm sick, and the only way to get, wonton soup that could help my throat was to order like $50 of Chinese food, which for a single lady who just has a sore throat, right, that just wasn't work. And I just wondered like why there wasn't a chicken soup delivery business. And so I said to Taryn a couple of months later, gosh, I have this crazy idea. We should make a chicken soup delivery. And she was like, I love it. And we were like, great, let's do it. What's funnier though, that I think about is that I was you, right? Like I got sick when I was in college. And this was, 100 years ago. But in those days, I hardly had a cell phone. I don't even know if I had a cell phone at that point. No, I don't even know if I had a cell phone at that point. But I was stuck in California. My mom was in Maryland. I was really sick. I tried to go to the doctor. Like the first doctor I went to didn't work. And then I couldn't get out, and my mom was panicking because she's, 3,000 miles away from me. How does she take care of me? Right. And I'm panicking because I don't feel well and I don't know what to do. And so now to be able to help parents and help families and help anybody, every time a mom, a college mom emails or whatever, I'm so glad we can do this, because I remember how helpless she must have felt and how scared I was. And to have somebody send you soup that just provides that comfort, it does everything.
Hey everyone, this is Amber Key, and you're listening to a Bright Idea podcast, a show where I sit down with entrepreneurs to discuss the aha moments that launched their businesses. On today's show, I'm joined by cousins Valerie Zweig and Taryn Pellicone of Prescription Chicken, a chicken noodle soup delivery business based in Washington, D.C. Valerie and Taryn always knew they wanted to work in the food industry. As young girls, they would help their families host dinner parties, attend cooking camps, and would eventually work to develop fast casual and dining restaurants. But being entrepreneurs was not in the cards, until Valerie caught a bout of laryngitis and couldn't find delivery options for chicken noodle soup to give her the relief she needed. That's when she called in her little cousin, Taryn, with the bright idea to make their own chicken noodle soup. With a dream, a concept, and some determination, the founders started Prescription Chicken in September of 2016. Now, Prescription Chicken is not only a soup delivery business, it can also be found in grocery stores and online. Not to mention their newest product, Cookstix, which is a new and sustainable take on chicken broth. In this episode, we discuss how a simple idea turned into a thriving business, the challenges and triumphs that come with being food entrepreneurs, and the beauty behind forgetting about being perfect and just getting started. Before we dive in, if you love what we're doing here at A Bright Idea Podcast, help us keep going. You can subscribe to this show to get notifications when new episodes drop. If you like what you hear, share this episode with someone who needs a little inspiration. And if you would like to support the show directly, you can donate to our Cash App at A Bright Idea Podcast. Lastly, if you're a business owner or a brand looking to connect with our growing audience, we'd love to collaborate with you. You can sponsor an ad within one of our episodes or sponsor an entire episode. Just reach out to learn more information. Now let's get into it. Here's my conversation with Valerie Zweig and Taryn Pellicone of Prescription Chicken.
I've had co-founders on this show who have met in college. I've had people that are partners who are married. I've never had two cousins on the show, which I think is so cool. And I really, because you guys are family, but you're cousins, there's definitely this dynamic that I think is so unique. Can you talk to me a little bit about your upbringing and what it was like growing up together with food playing such a big role in your family?
So, I'm the older cousin, and I don't really remember a time that Taryn wasn't with our family, right? She and my sister, little sister, are the same age, and, Taryn would spend summers with us and be there for holidays, and we were sort of always around, everybody was always around. But, a lot of it has always been around food. We do big meals for holidays, but I think about Taryn and my sister would go to cooking camps together, right? And so food has, I think, always been part of our familial relationship. Wouldn't you say, Taryn?
No doubt. Those are some of the fondest memories that I have from childhood. I would spend not full summers, but a few weeks at their house and outside of DC cooking camp, but it was beyond that. We would cook at home because it was fun and we would make stuff together and do all the little things, right? It's the way that we know how to play, if you will. Like we love food. We love even beverages, right? Like again, with the concoctions, it's just like making things all the time because it's fun and it's active. And then there's a really yummy treat at the end, right? So it's just really been a part of it, whether it was, again, when we were together, that was the common theme always. There's always some sort, even when we would go skiing, which we used to do every year, I remember being in like big common room and there being like OG charcuterie boards and like all the stuff, right? It was so fun, but there's always a food memory with every memory. And that's what I love about it.
That's so cool because I feel like as a kid, especially as a little girl, like I remember I was just playing with the Easy Bake Oven, but it's not like you mentioned a charcuterie board. That's like next level. That's next level of cooking, like as a child. So were like your parents into cooking, or was there a grandmother that had like a specific recipe that you guys would experiment with, or like talk to me about like the family dynamics of cooking.
My parents always loved to cook. So that was sort of always there, the original gourmands, right? Like they loved to go out to dinner, they loved to cook, they loved, all of that stuff. And so, I think like it's the entertaining mentality, which is something that's big in our family also. And so like, when we would go skiing, like the charcuterie boards, like we would have like epic happy hours, right? Because again, it's just the like connection and connection over food. So I think like, and one of the things that I think about now, right, that I don't know if this will be a good way to explain it, but like we all pitch in around the table. So like we do these holidays and everybody has a job, right? Like, so for a long time, Taryn was always on water. Now she actually like cooks things too with us, but like it's everybody always had a job at the table and a job together at the hospitality, and I guess like that's sort of how like they set the table for us, right? Which is that we're all at the table together, but we all have a job to do together. And like, we all like, you don't just sit and like, let somebody clear the table for you. Like everybody jumps up and does. And that's the way that we care for. And I think that that's like the biggest piece is like, that's how we as a family show love for people, right? Like to cook for them and entertain for them and care for them. And, and that's, exactly why it makes so much sense that Taryn and I started a business that cares for people, right? Like if I had to like, psychoanalyze myself, like, hello, that could be more obvious.
No, totally. Did you have anything to add to that, Taryn?
I think one of the things, because, sort of this idea of care, we also have this family rule, and I carry it with everything that I do in my life, where if we are the cooks and we are the ones who are entertaining and providing, we feed the other mouths first. It's what we've always done. It's how we always do it. But it's like, all right, buffet's open. Everybody else get up. We'll be the last ones because we're there replenishing and making sure bellies are full and making sure dishes are hot. And it really is that entertainment sort of mentality. But like that's the best way to be together is all sharing, all enjoying and whatnot. And we enjoy by caring for others. And so it just sort of like plays a role in that too. But the entertainment piece is by far what pulls everything together, right? Within the entertainment, there is the food, but it's that the coming together around the table that's so true.
You're talking a lot about the care and the hospitality and feeding people. But did you think that like food was such a big part of your lives, but did you think that you would be going into food entrepreneurship, let alone running one together?
I never thought that I was going to be an entrepreneur. I never thought there would be a world in which I would have a business. It's still pretty crazy to think about, but I always knew, and like, I always knew hospitality, right? Even in high school and like when I was younger, my first jobs, I was running a cupcake store on my college campus and I was creating the recipes. And then I graduated from school, but I went to school for food and hospitality. And I always say to people, like, once it's in your blood, you just never get out of it. Like if you are born to do this and it's within sort of the familial DNA, like you're sticking with food one way or another, whether you become a personal chef, whether it's through the entertaining, whether it's through whatever it may be, it's just something that we were built for. And so that's kind of how it carries through, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I always say, like, for whatever reason, the language I spoke was food, right? Like some people speak math, some people speak like medical terms, but for me, like food was the language that I understood and it made sense to me. So, I don't know that I ever thought I would be a business owner. In fact, I think I used to think that I didn't want to be a business owner. And I like the idea of like helping run a business, but I wanted to be like the guy behind the guy, but then you get ideas and then you like go with it. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, this is a good idea. And so here we are. But yeah, I mean, food for me, like I knew pretty early. I went to school in California and I was going to be a journalist. I wanted to be a baseball writer and I covered sports for a couple of years. And there was some drama and I didn't like it. And after like a story that I like broke a scandal and I was getting like secret tips from the men's volleyball team, I was like, I just want to write about tomatoes. Like, I don't want to write about that. I want to write about tomatoes. So pretty much early in college, I was like, okay, I'm going to go to culinary school because I want to work in magazines and I want to work, in that world. And so, that was sort of always the focus for me. And I always just stayed in food. So I started, in that journey, but food was sort of my foundation.
I love that. And I was doing a little bit of research. Thank you for going into your backgrounds a bit. I was looking at like where you guys started and your resumes are so vast. Like Valerie, you attended USC. You said my brother goes to USC right now for film school. So
nice.
Shout out to the Trojans. Yes.
Yeah.
You went for journalism and you had this focus on food. And then you went into consulting and you developed concepts for different restaurants from fast casual to full service and then hotel brands. And then Taryn, you went to, as you mentioned, the University of Delaware. You focused in hospitality. That led you to move to DC, and then you ran fast casual and large scale operations for sports and entertainment. Like these are really in depth and like just like really awesome opportunities. Like where do you find that working in these industries, like what lessons did you learn that helped you when you guys were thinking of starting this business?
I mean, I would say my entire background helped really shape sort of the day to day, right? Like I took models from ways that I had been running other fast casual businesses and we were able to apply it. And I'm not going to speak for Val, but like her conceptual ability to put this concept in place and like really hash out what it was going to look like. And then me taking my operational experience, it was the perfect marriage for everything. Right. So like, it's interesting. The biggest lesson that I learned was real life experience is the only thing that's going to set you up for this. Right. And like the amount that we have learned just by doing is incredible. And like, I think a lot about like people who have been through very specific programs to work on the things and in the field that we're in. And we didn't do that. Not to say that it's not valuable. It is absolutely valuable. But the best way to learn is to dive in and just figure it out. Right. And like, I would say that we are still learning stuff every day, every minute. Yeah. But it is the real life experiences, the taking a job that you're not totally confident that you're going to be able to do, but you want to do it and you're going to try your damnedest at it. And then all of a sudden those life experiences and those things sort of lead you in and sort of, they just trickle around with you, right? Like everything that I did in my past plays some sort of role in here, right? Sports and entertainment, we were setting up these gorgeous display tables. And sometimes when we do demos, I get to like play around with the height of the tables and how it's organized, right? So like literally every experience lends to some part of our business.
Mm-hmm. I love too that you guys worked in these corporate experiences. I think right now there's this push of entrepreneurship is bigger now than it ever has been. And I think sometimes people they don't want to work for somebody else. They want to just go into running their business, which is great. But there's I think there's a skill level or a skill set that comes along with working for someone else. Like, how do you think that played, or do you believe that kind of played a role in what the success you guys have had so far?
I mean, I think that working for someone else is critical. It's all just more information, right? Like when you do it yourself, how do you know management and leadership and how to run a business? And so I think it's really important. I actually co-teach a class at GW it's an entrepreneurship class. And one of the things that we always talk about in the class is that you can be an entrepreneur in any stage of your career. It doesn't mean you have to own your own business, right? You can be an entrepreneur in your career where you are running yourself, being the most productive, like making the brand of you, creating sort of your work reputation, et cetera. So like you can make yourself the entrepreneur, if that makes any sense. And so it really is, I think, important. I do think that working for other people is critical because you see, part of the way to learn things is like you see what you like and you see what you don't like. And how do you know what you like and what you don't like? People might say, I want to be an entrepreneur, right? But then you might do it and be like, I hate this so much, right? So you have to like really dive in and understand what works for you. And history is part of that. And look, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't jump in early. But I do think that there's huge value in trying things on for size, right? Whoever gets the right pair of jeans the first time you buy one, right? You have to buy 27 pairs of jeans, try them on to find the magic one.
When we come back, the conversation that started Prescription Chicken.
No, I definitely agree with that. I want to hop into the bright idea that led to Prescription Chicken. And I just have to make this interview is not about me, but I'm going to make it about me for 2 seconds because I feel like it ties in to this whole point.
Love it.
But I was really sick this one day and my friend was coming over to try on dresses. She had an event coming up and I'm like, girl, I'm sick. I know you need these dresses, but like warning, I don't know what I've caught. I don't know what I have, but anyway, she comes over and she's like, I'm going to get you some chicken noodle soup. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to buy it on DoorDash or whatever. And she pulls up with this soup and it's like, the branding was so great also because it looks like a little pill and then there's like a little chicken and it says Prescription Chicken. And you're like, first of all, what is this? And so I tried it and like automatically, there you are. Yes. For anyone who's watching, Valerie just held up a bag. Yeah. The perfect branding. And so I had your chicken noodle soup and it was just, it sounds so dramatic, but it really did bring me back to life. It like made me, it was comfort. It felt like home. It didn't feel like, a can of chicken noodle soup that you buy at the grocery store. And that night I went on your website. I was like, who are these people? I scrolled all the way down to the bottom, found your email address, and I'm like, I'm just going to throw a shot in the dark and I'm going to be like, they need to come on the show. And so when you got back to me, one of the things you said was like, our whole thing is about making you feel good, making you feel comfortable. And that's the whole mission of Prescription Chicken. And so, like that's my story. And so I wanted to know like where this idea came from.
So the story came because about 10 years ago, I got laryngitis twice in 6 weeks and I couldn't find chicken soup, right? I had lived in New York for a long time and in New York, you can get anything delivered and I got everything delivered. And then I moved to Washington and like the only things that you could get delivered were like pizza or Chinese food. And so, I'm sick and the only way to get, wonton soup that could help my throat was to order like $50 of Chinese food, which for a single lady who just has a sore throat, right, that just wasn't work. And I just wondered like why there wasn't a chicken soup delivery business. And so I said to Taryn a couple of months later, gosh, I have this crazy idea. We should make a chicken soup delivery. And she was like, I love it. And we were like, great, let's do it. What's funnier though, that I think about is that I was you, right? Like I got sick when I was in college. And this was, 100 years ago. But in those days, I hardly had a cell phone. I don't even know if I had a cell phone at that point. No, I don't even know if I had a cell phone at that point. But I was stuck in California. My mom was in Maryland. I was really sick. I tried to go to the doctor. Like the first doctor I went to didn't work. And then I couldn't get out, and my mom was panicking because she's, 3,000 miles away from me. How does she take care of me? Right. And I'm panicking because I don't feel well and I don't know what to do. And so now to be able to help parents and help families and help anybody, every time a mom, like a college mom emails or whatever, I'm like, I'm so glad we can do this, because I remember how helpless she must have felt and how scared I was. And to like have somebody send you soup that just provides that comfort, like is, it does everything.
And so you called Taryn and you're like, I have this wild idea. Can you like take me back to that conversation? Like, do you remember the conversation, Taryn? Did you think, I know you said yes, but like, were you like, how are we going to do this? Or were you just like on board from the start?
It's funny, like fully on board, which again, it's just odd, right? It feels like an odd thing that I ended up doing, but at the same time, like I was still pretty young in my career. I went to Val once I graduated from college. Like every job interview I had, or things that I was looking at, or my resume, like I remember going to her and being like, "Hey, who do you know and who can I interview with? Who like?" How can I approach my new, like this new life, right? And then it was just, I was in between stuff. And when she said it, I was like, hell yeah, like, let's just try it out. No idea what it's going to be like. But there was something about like getting back in the kitchen that was really exciting. And like, again, creating something of your own and navigating that. Like it just felt right. And so it was a really easy thing to do. And I do remember it. We do Seder together every single year. And even in COVID, I came to your mom's house, Val, if you remember, we were wearing masks sitting next to each other on Zoom. But, I remember after one of our Seders, we always have breakfast in the morning, and we started chatting about it, and she presented the idea. And I was just like, let's just do it. Let's figure it out. The DC scene had been really open to new businesses, right? There was shared kitchen spaces. There was ways for you to launch without having to like bite so much off. So you can kind of test the water, see how it is, figure it out, learn your own concept. Cause like we had an idea of how do you actually execute it? Like, what do you actually do? Yeah. And so we figured it all out, but yeah, it just felt right. And there's the inherent family trust, but there's also the trust of like, Val was already a mentor of mine. And so like, I go along with something and just test it out. And if it didn't work, then you do something else and you start over. It was sort of one of those things of like, we have to do this. Let's just try it, see where it goes, figure it out.
And it's funny, like I remember like we actually like came up with the name pretty much that morning. I think we like doodled it. We like wrote it up on Taryn, I think even has the pictures, but like we just doodled different like ways of the name, and we landed on the name pretty quickly. Yeah. Although I think we started with chicken prescription for a long time and then we flipped it. But yeah, I mean, I think like part of the magic was we just decided to just jump in and do it. And we didn't take too much time to like marinate on it, which, for better and for worse, right? The more time that if we had gone deeper into the business and probably really understood in the beginning, we would never have done it, right? But we took that leap of faith and we did it, and we've learned as we've gone, and it has been an incredible journey, right? Like it has not been easy. I can't say it's been fun every day. It has been delicious, but like it has been an incredible opportunity and an incredible experience.
Well, and something, Amber, something that Val said, it's interesting, right? So we launched Cookstix. We created our business plan in August of 2024, and it took us over a year to get it going. But that's because we had the time to think. We had the understanding. We had some of that background. We didn't just jump in. Yeah. And so it's really interesting to have that point of comparison, because literally with chicken soup, we talked about it in April. We started making recipes on our website in May, and then we launched in September. Like, when does that ever happen? And so it is interesting thinking about like, it took a full year for us to like really launch. And we had already been talking about the idea. So probably about a year and a half to 2 years. And the concept has sort of been in the brains since the commencement of our first business. And so it's really interesting to take the comparison of both and be like, oh, wow, it's just different. But it feels like the best way to kind of compare the two.
But I feel like that's a lesson for people that are listening, that are aspiring to start a business, is sometimes you just have to start. Like the decision paralysis or like the fear of like getting it all right the first time before you even begin, like you're just going to be waiting forever. And so I feel like you guys just kind of started and you figured it out along the way. But were you, during this time, were you both working full-time jobs and running this business on the side?
No, I was consulting. So I was able to do and I was consulting in personal chefing, but it was flexible. And then Taryn started full time.
And how many like iterations did you guys go through of the soup before you sold it to the public?
Not that many.
Yeah.
I mean, we developed our recipes pretty quickly, right? And we landed on them, and like going from cooking in my kitchen and then going into we had to like go from a 12 quart pot to a 100 quart pot. But no, I mean, we narrowed the recipes pretty quickly. We sort of knew what they were, and once we got the scale, yeah, we
And where did you sell them at first?
We started with Uber Eats and Postmates and DoorDash. So we opened up on September 1, 2016, and that was our first day of DoorDash and Uber sales. And I mean, we remember like we were there, and
like from your kitchen you were doing it.
Oh no. We had signed it. We were in Mess Hall, which is a local shared kitchen. But that first day we opened, and we got 9 orders, Taryn?
Yeah.
And they weren't all people we knew. And that was the thing that was like, what is happening? Like, this is bananas. Like, this is crazy.
Well, what was the marketing behind that though? Or were people just on Uber Eats looking for soup? Why?
Yeah.
Did you have to put the
was
keywords in or anything, or like it was literally organic?
I mean, when you set up your accounts with like the third parties, you put in a little profile, right? So if you looked up soup or chicken soup, we would have popped up. So that's probably sort of the luck of the draw of what happened. But also like they had like new restaurants, and I think Uber had just started operations in DC. So there weren't that many people on the platform, or like restaurants on the platform. So I think it was, again, like right timing, but also people have soup, and it just proved it on day one, right? And it just worked.
That's so cool.
But it's interesting. So going back to a little bit about what you said just a second ago, Amber, about how like if you try to like plot it out and forecast what it's going to be like you don't know. So that's the biggest piece of advice, or one of the biggest pieces of advice, which is you have to listen to the business. Like, you have to come up with your concept. You have to understand sort of who you are, but then you have to listen to your business and adjust. So when we started, we were like, we envisioned this as like, like a more accessible, or what's the urban flowers? What's the urban stems, right? Because we were like, look, the idea of like what Urban Stems did for flower delivery, right? Like, they tried to make it accessible and fast, right? A little bit less expensive and a little bit quicker, right? Because if you want to send someone a gift. So we were in that same model. We were like, okay, we want to create something that people gift, right? You send to your friends, you send to someone you love, they send it back to you. But what we found was that we had a lunch rush and a dinner rush. And we were like, oh, people order all day, but we get a lunch rush and a dinner rush, which I think we had no idea. We just didn't expect that. But rather than be like, oh, well, we're not a restaurant, like we were like, okay, great, we're a restaurant. So like, let's make sure that we're capturing people and giving people what they need. And like, okay, great. We ended up doing challas. We offered little challah sliders, like understanding what people wanted and how they interacted from the business, and then allowed us to expand the menu in a way that benefited and boosted the brand and boosted the concept, right? That made just, collective sense.
So once you guys, you kind of hit the ground running, got started, then figured it out on the back end. Once you started to see that the sales were coming in, did you guys do any sort of like case studies and research on your audience and like build from there? Or like, how did you, no, you just, oh, okay, this is awesome.
I mean, look, to be honest, like getting that type of data and doing those studies are so expensive. And when you're a small business, you have to really you have your dollars, and you have to say, how can I really deploy these dollars to benefit my business in the best way? And some of the case studies, obviously, extremely valuable, but also marketing was really valuable, and bringing on team members to help us so that we weren't in the kitchen 7 days a week for 14 hours a day, right? So it's sort of the like pick and choose what you need and what's going to benefit the growth of the business. And that was supporting our growth, not necessarily through the case studies, but you get some information from the third party platforms like Uber Eats and DoorDash and stuff. Is it robust? Not really, or it wasn't to begin with, right? It's definitely changed throughout the years. But no, we went with what is selling well, what are other businesses doing, right? Using what is working in the market to help us kind of discover what could work for us too. But yeah, we didn't do any sort of like the case studies or anything.
Not investing in it, but I would say we did common sense like analysis, if that makes sense, right? Like we used sort of what we had. So like Taryn said, we ordered tons of other people's things to see like how are they delivering it? What is it packaged like? How are they communicating it? We also like understood who the Uber Eats user was, right? Like likely the user was sort of that, younger demographic, familiar with the phone, it was very similar. We drew a very similar connection to like Living Social at the time, right? Because we found that people were committed to Uber, right? They already had their credit card loaded in. So they were less committed to the brand. So that was important to do in-app marketing because these people are already going to go to Uber. So then it's us, making our offering interesting to them when they search for us. So we were able to get sort of this common sense data and information. And it's the same thing as we sort of went into our grocery business world and even Cookstix, right? Understanding who this is and who the user is, right? Like it's a premium product. So, it's a premium product. It's a soup product, right? So the primary shopper is going to be the person who buys that. It's going to skew female in her, late 20s to early 50s, right? So like we're going to have the outliers, but like with a premium soup in the grocery store, you're not going to have like college kids spending, sometimes, but like college kids are not going to be like your number one demographic, right? And you're probably not going to have like, we actually, our demographic tends to be, it's family, but it's not super family because we're not a huge size. So it's like those pieces that you can sort of infer to understand how people use it and then build your marketing from there. So it's really just sort of common sense inference also.
No, that makes total sense. And before we transition into how you guys have expanded the business over the years, I want to rewind a little bit because you mentioned that the case studies cost a lot of money. So I want to talk about money for a second. How did you, not to dig in your pockets, but like, did you have like family and friends investing in the business early on? Was this all coming from like your pockets from your 9-to-5s? Like where did the money come from to start the business?
Yeah, it was our savings, parental support. And that's really how it started.
And then at what point were you able to hire people?
We hired pretty quickly. We launched in September. We brought our first employee in November. So, we knew we needed it. And it was reaction to the sales, right? People really liked the product. And, Val and we're very bullish and we will try everything, right? So we were doing events and we were doing sampling. And I remember so young into the business, we did Emporium. And that was a beast, but it was amazing for us. And as you get people to taste the product, because that's really what it is. And it was tough for us because we've said over and over, we're hospitality people. Like we like to make humans happy. We want you to be comfortable. But with the delivery business, you don't get to touch your customer except through the cute little bag, right? And that's really where that design came from, was how can we make you feel like, oh, that's so cute when you get it. And that's what you really feel, right? And then you taste the soup and you have this feeling, right? So people were stoked about the product. We were seeing sales increase. We wanted to dabble in a few different things, right? Try some markets out, do the thing. And so we had to bring a team member on pretty quickly. And then it was really just the three of us for quite some time. We were cooking, we were operating and sort of doing it all at once. And I don't think we hired anyone else until probably like 6 months into the business, but honestly, I don't even remember. But again, it was all from necessity, right? People really love the product. And so as we were growing, we had to bring people on. So it was like the best problem. And being in a shared kitchen space, you have access to people, right? So we're able to be like, hey, if you want more hours, you can, come work for us. Very like-minded humans. And But yeah, it was pretty quick.
Coming up, how Taryn and Valerie funded their business.
I feel like as you expand and scale your business, there is a need for more funding. Is most of it your funding coming from like profits from the soup, or have you guys looked into like investing in venture capital as well?
Yeah, it's a good question. We're sort of in it right now. I think for a long time, we sort of did cash flow support, right? Where we just sort of reinvested the money that would come in. But the reality is you really do need capital to grow. So we have done some investment. We've done some debt. We're looking to actually kick off a raise for Cookstix in the coming weeks. Because again, we have always been scrappy and we've always sort of pieced it together, but it becomes it starts to hurt you when you don't actually have the ability to support the brand and grow the brand in the way that you need to. So it's it's an interesting thing, but I would say that like I think we're pretty naive, for a long time about like just sort of like, oh, we can make this work. And then now it's like, oh gosh, like we actually need the support and like we need to focus on that if that makes sense.
Well, and it's also beyond support, right? The industry is ever changing and you have to react to that, right? You have to catch up with, if we are a business, an industry that is using affiliators and creators who you are paying for content on your social media, like you've got to keep up. And so to keep up, you need the money to do it. And so, yes, it is about sort of the survival and the day-to-day, but it's if you know that your concept can grow and if you know and are passionate about it, in order to do it the right way, it costs. And those are the hard realities, I think, as business owners, like Val said, is like, we want to just keep the money coming in. So then our day-to-day supports the rest of it, but it can't work like that. You need a director of sales. You need a director of marketing. You have to see what's sort of happening. And so yes, capital is necessary for your day-to-day, but if you want to grow, you've got to have it to support you and to just sort of keep up with like everything that's happening and going on.
Yeah.
It's just the name of the game.
Well, and like and again, we didn't know, right? Depending like what the direction of the business is, right? When we started, we were like, we're just going to always be pop up. We're always going to do chicken soup delivery. We didn't really actually think we were going to go into grocery. And Al Goldberg, who is the founder of Mess Hall, was like, you need to get UPCs. And we were like, we don't, but we did. But when we went into grocery, like there was just, again, a bit of a naivete, which I say that because I think that that's important to have in industry, like, because otherwise, like the more the more reasons to just be like, I'm never going to win in this, right? We did all of what we did without knowing any of it, right? Like we pitched a national account and got a national, like 350 stores to carry our soup because we just like walked in and we were like, how do we pitch this, right? Like that's not normal, right? And it's luck and all of that for sure. But it's there are things that you don't know. Like there's so much money that goes into it, right? So it's not as easy as like, hey, Whole Foods, I want to sell my soup at your store, right? Whole Foods, like every other store, is going to say, okay, great, you need to sell it through a distributor, and that distributor is going to buy it from you and then sell it to Whole Foods for more money. But then like Whole Foods might say like, hey, you need to pay us X amount of dollars to get shelf space, right? And then, hey, you need to do X, Y, and Z for a promo. And so it's like, there's just so many opportunities for money that you don't know, right? It's not as easy as like, hey, we have an awesome product and hey, your customers will love it, right? It's great. How do you pay for your space?
So you guys have you went from delivery to retail. Now you have Cookstix. When did you decide that it was time to expand?
Well, I don't know that I think building on, right? So like, and which I guess is the same as expansion, but it wasn't like we were like, all right, today is what, we should expand. It's just, it's adding on to, right. And building on top of what we had, right. We had a great product. And then we would go to the grocery store and be like, God, like the products in the deli are just not like ours are just so much better, right? Like we can get ours here. And so it's just that opportunity of like, we have this. And then when you have the idea and especially with Cookstix, right, you understand, like we've had the idea of Cookstix for a really long time, but it took us time to figure out the formulation, the way to make the product right. So we have the concept of it in different forms, but as we've sort of developed our business, I remember we talked about launching Cookstix. It was a different iteration. It was called Stock Blocks then, like in the beginning. And we were like, okay, we need to like slow our roll and like focus on what we have, right? About 7 or 8 years in, we had figured out a new partner and we had learned about some formulation things. And we were like, oh my God, this is what Cookstix can be. And so now that we have that unlocked for us, now we can go.
Yes.
So
it was 100%. It not 100%. It is very circumstantial to what you have access to. And it defines when you learn new things because you're in it, it enables you to do bigger and better things, right? So we were able to launch Cookstix in an impactful and intentional way because we had the experience of the other businesses that we were running. We were able to develop our products faster and better because we then already had the partnerships there. We already had sort of the support for helping with like formulation and stuff. And so because of how we ran our business is how we were able to sort of open the doors for new opportunities, which is really cool, right? Because it's simply like Val said, it's extension, it's growth. It's not really like a new business. It's just growing in sort of the area that you're already in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think like in talks about Cookstix, how you guys are standing out in this like crowded food market.
Yeah, I mean, the chicken stock space is really interesting. So we like always joke because we get so passionate about this stuff and we're always like, gosh, like, chicken stock's not the sexiest in the market, but it actually is quite sexy as a concept because it's a tried and true product that people use over and over and over again every single day, right? Like people are buying boxes of stock left and right because it goes into everything. But when we looked at the market, it was sort of interesting because like the most innovation that sort of happened in that space was people made juice box sizes. So they knew that there was a problem with waste because they said, okay, great. So people aren't using it. So we're going to do smaller sizes. You still have to buy sort of 4 together, but you could open 1, you can open 2 and you don't waste the product. Right. And then we saw that people were innovating in, favorite dishes like pho and ramen broth. But that was like kind of, the other innovations were like low sodium or organic, but that was really the most innovation. And so what we said is like, hey, we see that this is like a very exciting market. We see that people are trying to respond to, new and exciting flavors and the answer of what to do with waste. What else can we do? And then, we were able to really apply, like Taryn said before, some of the history that we've learned, right? So we spent a lot of time shipping liquid across the country. It is expensive. All of a sudden, to be able to ship something that has like 0.57 grams is like a treat. You know what I mean? And so all of a sudden, we now have a product that, this box has, 8 of these sticks, and these sticks are, 1 stick is a box of chicken stock. So all of a sudden, this tiny little thing takes up, 8 gigantic chicken stocks. So it's exciting for, it's exciting for stores, it's exciting for people, it's exciting for, schlepping, it's exciting for all of those things, and it tastes great.
Next, we get into the trials and tribulations of running a food truck.
What has been, have you guys had any like growing pains or challenges in the building out or expansion of prescription chicken and now in the Cookstix?
That's going to have to be a whole nother podcast, but yes.
Well, you could just say how you've overcome some of these challenges.
We are so lucky because we have each other. And like Val said, we balance each other from like a stress perspective, right? When I'm on 1,000, she's level-headed and vice versa. And so those challenges that we take on personally, we're able to help balance each other out and be okay. But it is, it can rock you a little bit, right? We have been through a lot of challenges. Every which way that you can think of, You just have to stay strong and not give up, because if you give up or you let it get to you, you'll deteriorate, right? You stay strong, you remember who you are, you remember what your business is, and then you push through it. And also the support of really good partners, right? Some of the customers we work with, the stores who we work with, they're wonderful. They understand, so are our vendors. And so your community is what holds you up. Us as individuals allow us to get through the challenges internally. And then the community that you surround you in, you use your resources, you reach out to your network. Like, people are so crucial in this process. And in my opinion, it's how we really get through so much of it.
Having a co-founder is something that is a really, I don't want to say a luxury, but if you have the opportunity to have a co-founder, I highly recommend it, because again, just to have somebody to bounce things off, split the work, complement the workload, et cetera, and just two brains, is better than one. So a co-founder is something that we are incredibly lucky. Not everybody has that, and like, we're incredibly lucky that we do.
What does it mean to be working with family?
You want to go first? You want me to go first?
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, there's sort of that built-in trust, right? It's running a business it's hard, and unless you sort of have that person, it's your ride or die, right? I don't know how else to explain it, but Val is there no matter what I'm going through, no matter what it is. We're here for each other. And I would imagine that other business partners who aren't related, who can probably say that too, maybe, but like, we don't go away. We're here forever with each other. So like, whether good or bad, we're sticking together, right? But not many people can say that. And because we have a strong family foundation, we are able to get through the rest of all of the other things, in my opinion.
It's 100% right. It's that trust that the person that you depend on is not going anywhere. But it's interesting. That's not just because it's family. That's because it's us. That's because it's our family, right? Like,
True.
my dad was in a family business, and it didn't end super well, right? And I think that, like, we invest in each other. We, and we're always working. We're always trying to be better, right? But we try to connect on a personal level. Like, we do a walk and talk every Wednesday morning, where it's just an hour of just like catching up on life, right? Because it connects to where we are and what's happening in the world. But it's vital to know what's happening in my world. It's vital to know what's happening in her world, because like, it's not just business. Everything is connected. And, you have to invest in your relationship. So, and look, we're not perfect at it. We work hard at it. We have worked hard at it from day one, and we always will, because it's important.
Yeah.
And actually, we talked about that this morning. We believe, and I believe this, Taryn, like, I think it's the same with us, right? Like, when you work at a relationship and you're committed to it, that's a healthy relationship. An unhealthy relationship is one where you're not actually interested in working at it. It doesn't mean it's a perfect relationship, but when you're working at it and you're committed to working at it, that means it's a healthy relationship.
For the person listening right now who wants to start a food business and is nervous to start, or has it on their vision board right now and hasn't just gone and done it, what's your advice? What are you saying to them today?
Just do it. Just do it. Just do it and test it, right? You don't have to jump into the deep end, right? Like, get your feet wet. If you have a cupcake recipe or you have a banana bread recipe that you love, right? Make it. Give it to people. Will people buy it? Will they buy it again, right? We always say that the marker of a business is not if they buy it once, do they come back, right? Is it a value for them? So like, start and build from there. Go to the farmers markets, sell it to friends and family, and think about how you can scale it from there, right? It's always good to know how you're going to get into grocery stores. So like, don't commit to like the most expensive bananas that you grow yourself, right? Like, know that, like, have the vision of where you want to go in the future, but start small, prove your market with people who love you. And again, it's all about just getting going, starting, etc., and then see where the business goes. Because you might start as banana bread, but you might find that banana chips is actually what is better for you, what is better for your customers, etc. And as you listen, you're able to evolve sort of your concept if you need to.
I would add to have confidence in yourself, right? Which can be really hard sometimes, but don't get lost in well, I don't know. I don't know how to do this. Figure it out. Do it. You can do it. Believe yourself and trust yourself, right? Trust yourself that this is the good idea. This is the thing. Try it. If it doesn't work, it's not the end of the world, right? Life goes on. But if you feel passionate, listen to the passion.
But with that in mind, right? If you are a person, I think it's also critical to know who you are. So if you're a person that isn't going to be able to be a problem solver, don't do it, right? Don't make it your job. Keep it your hobby, right? There is nothing wrong with being like, I love to make banana bread for fun. You don't have to make it a business. Because if you're not the type of person who is able to be nimble and solve and put out fires, because I would tell you that like we are putting out fires, like 35 fires every hour. Like that's just how it goes. So you have to know who you are also, because the thing is about like, they say, make like what you do, what you love, right? But it's hard enough that it's easy to make you not love it. I think we still love it. Like I still love our product. Like I think it's still like incredibly delicious, but you have to make sure that you have that sort of wherewithal to handle that.
Thank you so much for the advice. I feel like I was taking in exactly everything that you were saying in addition to, you know, the listeners. But what's next for you guys?
It's growing Cookstix, right? So I think that we are like, it's real. Like we've just launched this business, and you know it's up and it's running and it's going and it's incredible, and we have so much innovation that's planned. And so I think we're just so excited to get people to understand and know what Cookstix is, check it out, try it again, and grow that brand. So I know for me, I'm so excited about that. Soup always, right? Like we know that it performs and we know what it does, but Cookstix, we just really feel like has the chance to change, like make an impact. Like we really, really change an industry. And so we're just so excited to try to bring that to life. I mean, for me.
It's awesome. And where can people find you?
Yeah, Cookstix is available on our website, www.mycookstix.com. We're also in the Whole Foods Market in the Mid-Atlantic region. We'll be launching in some other stores up and down the East Coast this fall.
That's it for this week's episode of A Bright Idea Podcast. Today's guests were Valerie Zweig and Taryn Pellicone. You can follow Prescription Chicken on social media at Prescription Chicken or by going to their website at prescriptionchicken.com. You can also buy their Cookstix on Amazon, at Whole Foods, or on their website. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us bring on more stories like Taryn's and Valerie's. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at A Bright Idea Podcast for updates. And if there's a topic or a guest you'd like to hear from next, drop us a message. If you would like to support the show directly, you can donate to our Cash App at A Bright Idea Podcast. This episode was edited by me, and all social media was handled by my social media manager, Shekinah Henderson. Until next time, I'm Amber Key.